Hey guys, I think it's time we had a bit of a catch-up. So, come with me and find out about the greatest hero team that never was. So, the journey begins on the high seas, a mass of water between Weston-super-Mare and the southern waste. Captain Enrico Fernandez III has 2 passengers with him. Lily Lelixa Clampathafmernig, a druid gnome looking to disassociate herself with her family name, and Locticus Frayne, a high elf bard, also out to escape family pressures. Enrico explains that he has a small mission he needs to do before he drops them off on the mainland for them to carry on their adventuring. They pull up to a mysterious dock, which is just stood there in the middle of the sea, no land attached to it at all. As they get closer, a whirlpool starts to open, and from that shoots 2 figures as they land upon this lone dock. Enrico calls for the crew to throw the ladders overboard and welcome these 2 onto the ship. They are Prince Janaeus, the Triton Warlock Paladin from Thyamis, and Storm, the Sorcerer Aide. Enrico explains to Frayne and Lily that he's been tasked by Janaeus' father, the king, to retrieve a magical trident, one that has the ability to command sea life in all sorts of creatures. It's been lost to the kingdom and they want it back. The adventurers continue forth across the sea, what seems like an endless mass. The weather starts to change, it becomes stormier and more turbulent, and then the ship is attacked by all sorts of sea-like creatures. Enrico, who originally intended to swim down with Janaeus and confront the trident thief, is injured and he has no choice but to give his magical sea-breathing potion to Frayne and Lily. The 4 of them jump overboard and swim down to the depths to be confronted with a sea elf who has the trident to control sea life. A battle ensues. Frayne is firing arrows. Lily's transformed into a giant shark. Storm is casting all sorts of magical powers as Janaeus is going toe-to-toe with the thief. However, a mysterious figure appears, Argeus, the god of tempest. He puts everyone to sleep, but Storm, and he has an offer for them. They could stay and adventure with their friends, or they could join him in ensuing chaos runs among the sea. Storm, a chaotic character in nature, well, this is an offer that's too good to refuse. However, Frayne was not asleep, for you can't put elves to sleep. She stands up and she fires an arrow at the pair of them, but they disappear into the sea with the stolen trident. She awakens Janaeus and Lily, and they start their ascent to Captain Enrico's ship. So, our 3 adventurers, broken, bruised, and Janaeus feeling a little defeated at the betrayal of his friend, aboard Captain Enrico's ship. They learn from Enrico that the ship has been badly damaged, and they must pull into the nearest port for him to be able to repair the ship. The closest is that of Fairmire Keep, a small coastal town, but recently has been troubled with demonic activity. They sent a detective and a paladin into the woods to discover the source. However, neither have returned. So Janaeus, Lily and Frayne decide to adventure into the dark woods to see if they can find the lost heroes. As they make their way through, they find all sorts of terrible creatures, hags, vampires, werewolves. They come to a clearing where they find the detective and the paladin holding their own against a horde of creatures. The 5 join together and manage to push back the demonic entities. They learn the detective is called Arian, and the golden dragonborn is that of Torin Dar. The 5 of them decide to push forward into the woods to see if they can find a source of this demonic activity. As they carry on through the woods, Arian explains that a red tiefling had been seen in a neighbouring village opening hell mouths and is possibly the cause of the activity. However, he wonders why they gravitate towards this town. As they push forward, they find something that's not on any map or has ever been described to them. A temple. Just there, in the middle of the woods. As they come to the door, there is a sign written in an ancient language that Arian can read, that simply says, the Phoenix of Florencia. They open the doors to the great temples, and the first thing they're met with are magnificent statues depicting what could be heroes, some sort of leather-clad elf, another elf dressed in regal finery, a dragonborn with a saucepan. They explore the many different rooms of the temple. Janaeus finds a trident, one that you can never be surprised in battle with. Janaeus knows this to be one of the lost tridents of his kingdom. They come across a room that's completely covered in moss and plant life. Only Lily can pass through. She meets Winrith, a druidess, who's been held up here for quite some time, and she explains to Lily that her mission is now over and she must take up the position of the Archdruid. However, to be careful, for the aspect of another ancient creature resides in this temple. Lily rejoins the team just in time as they're attacked by a vampiric elf-like creature. It focuses in on Arian and is able to defeat him. However, with this, the team destroy the vampire. They leave the temple, saddened to have lost a new friend. As they travel through the forest, Frayne hears the voice of her brother, saying that she must return home to the Feywilds as soon as possible. They come to a small tavern where they rest up for the night. In the morning, they are having breakfast together, as they are joined by a mysterious hooded figure. It is that of Arian's, and the team learn he can't really die, he just moves on to another body. As he is explaining this, Enrico appears, saying that the ship has now been repaired and awaits to take them to their next adventure. The team sail the high seas. Frayne explains to them getting to the Feywilds is not easy. She had high magic to be able to escape there. Getting back would not be so simple. Enrico reckons that the best way to find such magic would be in the plug hole, a mysterious place in the centre of the islands where all sorts of magic can be found. Just as he's explaining this, the ship is attacked by Refulio, an independent pirate underwater kingdom, a place where Janaeus has no authority, and it's his trident that they are after, for it is one of the lost tridents. The ship is completely destroyed. Our 5 heroes manage to wash ashore an island, however the fate of Enrico is unknown. As they explore the island, they find Mero and Swahajin. These are underwater creatures. Why are they attacking this seemingly uninhabited island? And that's when they meet Salvatera, a warforged druid, who explains that something has come to the island and has the intent on sinking it. They enter a volcano and descend downwards to where they find Storm, using the Trident of Command to control the mind of these poor creatures. Realizing that now Janaeus has found new allies, they don't stand a chance. They make their escape, but not before summoning an Aboleth. After a long battle, Salvatera turns the creature into a turtle, which then brings a peace to the island. As a thank you, she teleports them all to the plug hole. So the team find themselves in the plug hole. The plug hole is a mountain, centered on a whirlpool. The whirlpool pours pirate ships into it, and over time a city has formed, a vast metropolis. Arian explains he's had dealings here before, and he has somewhat of an office where the team can safely figure out their next move. The office is full of many wondrous magical items collected over centuries. Arian explains that he believes himself to be quite old, but he's not 100% sure why he's here. However, the elf back in the temple seemed familiar. Arian knows of teleportation circles just out from the main plug hole that would be able to get them to the Feywilds. However, on way to the teleportation circles, they are attacked by another elf. This one carries a pocket watch and seems to have some control over time. He quickly overpowers them, and they find themselves back in Arian's study. However, Arian is mortally wounded, and Frayne is missing an arm. Arian explains that he has a friend close by who may be able to help him with his wounds. Lily and Janaeus take Arian to his friend, whilst Torin and Frayne explore the plug hole to see if they can find out anything that happens to her. Lily and Janaeus leave Arian with his friend, and that's where they meet Atlas, one of the members of the Seven. He explains that somebody who looks remarkably like Janaeus is attacking islands around the plug hole. Janaeus believes this to be Storm, for they have the ability to to change form. Atlas suggests they find out Oriana, somebody who would know the best ways to get out of the plug hole. Lily and Janaeus meet Oriana in the Clam and Pearl, and she explains their options. If magic is no longer on the table, it's either by ship or by airship. Lily mentions that she is a mernig, to which Oriana says if she had a name like that, she'd be able to get anything she wanted in the plug hole. And maybe an airship might be the best option. Oriana takes them to the airship dock, where there is indeed a mernig airship that will be ready for them in a few hours, so they decide to rest up, but that is when they're attacked by Kranis Darkside, another member of the Seven. One who currently has the body of Lily's brother, Lox Mernig. And if he can, he wouldn't mind getting his hands on another Mernig child. He attacks the pair of them. They both try to put up a defense, but are easily overpowered. The tower is destroyed, and they both fall. However, using their magical abilities, they manage to steady themselves and find themselves again at the Clam and Pearl. Janaeus uses the last of his magic to make the ship mobile. The patrons on board become a makeshift crew as it sails down the street. This includes a Goliath by the name of Rog. They find Torin and Freyne along the way, and the ship makes its way from the plug hole. As our team sail away from the plug hole, Freyne explains to them it is possible to get to the Feywilds via the sea. However, they have to be at a certain point in a certain location, where the veils between the realms is thinnest. She believed that one could be found in Halverton, an island not far from the plug hole. They happen upon a small island. However, as they get closer, they realise this is not an island, but in fact, a gigantic dragon turtle with a living breath weapon that then attacks the ship. And unfortunately, Freyne dies. Freyne's final words were, "Get me home." Torin was able to cast a spell to keep her body preserved. Janaeus, with guilt from letting Freyne die and having the issues with Storm they have to address, decides to leave the team. They make it to Halverton. Torin and Lily set out to find the navigator, whilst Rog sets up a soup stand on the beach. He is soon greeted with a familiar face, that of Lahan, an old sparring partner of his. He's here to collect a bounty that's been placed on Lily's head, for she has been blamed for the destruction of the plug hole. Lily and Torin make it back to the beach with Alton, and Lahan explains how the whole plug hole is under a lockdown, and that Lily has a wanted poster and a price on her head. They explain to Lahan that they need to get to the Feywilds. Lahan has never been to the Feywilds, and being a bit of an elf, thinks it would be great to explore that side of his lineage. Abandons the plans to collect the bounty and joins the team. And once again, the ship sets sails. But of course, it is then set upon by pirates. Torin wrestles the pirate captain and goes overboard, as the rest of the team make quick work of his henchmen. However, Alton informs them that this is the place to enter the Feywilds and to bring Freyne's body to the deck. It magically turns into a tree, but he needs the power of elf meditation to be able to open the doorway. Lahan grabs the tree and screams. Somehow, this opens up a portal, and our three adventurers awaken underneath a tree in the Feywilds. A strange phenomenon overcomes our party, for they believe they've always lived in the Feywilds. And as they've woken up under this strange tree, it's time for them to return home to their families that are waiting for them. They travel along the strange green forests of the Feywilds, and they come across 3 small huts where everyone they've ever loved is waiting for them. However, this is Fey trickery, as an Oblick has attached itself to them and is eating away at their life force. However, just in time, Freyne comes in with a fully restored wooden arm and defeats the creature. She rescues her friends, and Lahan, and then takes them to Corellan's Wood, where her family is situated. On the way, they find Torin, who was rescued by Corellan and told that he must protect Freyne at all costs. However, when they make it in to Freyne's family home, they find an elf with a pocket watch. Yeah, that guy, him from earlier. He has Freyne's parents tied up and restrained, with hundreds of magical swords pointed at their direction. And he says, maybe I have your attention now. The elf, named Callow, explains that he's tried to meet with the team numerous times. However, for some reason, it's always ended violently. He needs their help, for a friend of his is being held prisoner by Corellon, and he wants his friend released. However, his friend has a darkness within him called the Desolation. Well, part of it. You see, 1,000 years ago, someone tried to assemble all of the pieces of Desolation. And he informs Lahan, in fact, his father was there as a resistance against this. But now the Feywilds are under attack by dark, abhorrent creatures that the Desolation is calling out to. If the pieces of Desolation are united, it is the end of the world as we know it. So it's important for Thrain to meet with Corellon. They make it to a fort in the middle of a battle zone, led by Thrain's brother, Leviticus, the final stand against the darkness. Callow explains that Thrain can take one person with her, and she chooses Lily, leaving Rog, Torin, and Lahan to join the final stand. Thrain and Lily make the journey to Corellon's tree. Thrain was a chronicler, someone that recorded the histories and the events of the Feywilds. And Corellon had been consuming them, giving him the power to fend off this darkness, brought here by the Desolation. He expects her to sacrifice herself to him, for him to protect the Feywilds. However, Lily makes the sacrifice, leaving Thrain devastated. She finds Callow's friend, the one with the piece of Desolation within him, and she takes it for herself. With Lily gone, and her friends assumed perished in the war zone, she leaves Feywilds. But what happens to her? And where does she go after that? And what became of Janaeus? Find out more in Fathoms of Consequence, coming soon.